Hey, good early morning. This is Dr. Bill Williams on the Influencers Podcast, and we're here ringing in the new year, the first week of 2023, with Dr. Joe Way of HETMA. And we're going to bring Joe on right now, and I want to introduce you to my friend out in the fine state of California. He's with us today. Say hello to Dr. Joe Way.
Hey, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate this. Yes, nice, bright and early. It's great to come and be with you today.
Yeah, anytime I can rouse somebody up on the West Coast and get them to come in early on East Coast time, hey, that's a feat. I'm glad you're able to do that. And we'll get going with the questions that we want to dig into your past, your present, and your future. Where were you? What happened? And who were you surrounded by that inspired you to do what you're doing today, Joe?
Oh boy. Now there's a loaded question. I think like a lot of people, it's funny, our careers kind of never that, wherever you said your trajectory was going to be when you were 18 years old is never not ever where it ended up going. It's funny because, even though I have the great little all the letters behind my name, all my degrees are in the humanities, yet I spent my entire career in, the audiovisual entertainment, world, pretty much my entire time, the AV world. And so it's interesting. I always say, no matter how much I tried to get out of it, the industry kept bringing me back. And that's just kind of the way it all worked out. But yeah, no, I ended up spending pretty much most of my career in working in live entertainment, working in television and live production and sound and all of that. Did that and had production studio for years until moving into house of worship side, and did that for a number of years, and finally into higher education now for, oh my gosh, I'm coming up on 7 years in higher ed. It feels like yesterday. So now it's great to be able to oversee. My day job is being the director of learning environments at the University of Southern California. So I oversee all of the classroom technology across the enterprise for all of our general use spaces. And when I say I have a great team who does everything while I sit at home and come on a podcast with you. And and so I also do chair HETMA, which is an organization that advocates for the needs of the AV industry, the tech managers and, instructional designers and all of those who kind of make the classroom world go round within the greater industry. So we've been going strong for about 3 years on that, and also run a media company that allows that kind of shares the news to our vertical and all that. So that's the long and where and to, and now where at. So that's the journey, I guess, so far.
Well, you've been around the world, you've done a lot, and you focused on the AV part, I see. You got to have a lot of great stories related to that. So I want to ask you about your greatest failure. When did you have that one? What did you learn, and how did you recover from it?
Yeah, I never liked telling the story, but I'm going to tell it anyway, because it's actually it's one of those failures that you wish never happened, because I look at a failure, to me, isn't necessarily whether or not I succeeded in what I was trying, but I hate letting other people down. And when my choices and decisions impact others, that's when I really consider it, a failure. And that really, my biggest failure actually goes back to a time when I was living in Dallas, and there for a business opportunity. We were starting a company there, building it up. This was back at the right near the millennials. I was there for 2 years, and we were building up the company. It was a $10 million business, and all of a sudden, 9/11 happens, and all of the money we were using to support it was leveraged against the stock value of American Airlines, which did not do very well there. So 9/11 happened. That meant within a week, I had to basically close a business, fire 50 people. And also, my daughter was born the day after 9/11, my first child. So you want to talk about your world kind of, rocking in front of you. And I think that what I realized going back was, again, going back, that was what now, 22, 23 years ago, um, is how, when I was building my career, how focused I was on me being successful. And while it took other people, it was so focused on me and whatever I was going to write in a byline and whatever I was going to put on a, I guess LinkedIn wasn't around right back then, but you get the idea, how I was going to kind of, toot my own horn. And, when that happened within a week of, closing basically the business having to go under, firing all those people, um, and, becoming a father for the first time, it just fundamentally, changed me. And it was at that point where I kind of recognized, as I had to pull everything back together, that, the value of having the people around you and building that team and doing more for those who are aligned with you than they are going to get that you're going to get from them. And when we throw away we throw around, the moniker of, servant leadership and all that. And I don't know that I knew what that meant back then, but that was that transition for me. And then if I look at that point, it's funny because I really consider it a point in my life where I figure, things were at zero, which is interesting because it was actually a great point in my life. I was probably very successful at that point, but it was that knockout from, to the ground that made you go, hey, things have to be different. And that was really the biggest change for me, is just then start looking at the people and value the people, and knowing that any other success I was going to have later would never be able to be done alone. And there was more value in building them up, and more, personal satisfaction in building up others and seeing the team around me succeed, which in turn helped me succeed. But there was just such a different gratification behind it. So there's a story. So there's your long story, your long answer to that.
I think that's a good story. Greatest failure story often leads to other people seeing you as a real person, but also they learn a life lesson. And if we fail to learn from our mistakes, we tend to repeat them over and over. So that brings me to the next question: is what do you think in general, after your years of experience? What are the top 3 reasons that people fail?
Oh, top 3 reasons people fail. Okay. I would say 1, lack of long-term vision. Um, I think I'm one of those people that I value the goal, or I look at the goal as more important than how you get there. So unless you know where you want to be, because situations change, things get thrown in front of you. Um, you have to be able to be, kind of fast, fluid, and flexible with your plans and your goals. So I think knowing where you want to be, even if you don't know what it looks like, but knowing, kind of a this is the point of the thing I want to accomplish. So without really having that and knowing that and being able to put a pin in it, is the first thing. Second, I would say, then kind of goes back to my first answer, and that's having a great team around you. I think that we can't go through life alone. We weren't made, God didn't create us to go through life alone. And so building a great team, having those both professional support and personal support, having those who are both, mentors for you and those who you can mentor. I think that it's a kind of it's not just horizontal peers that do stuff with you and for you, but both up and down. So I think that team, that community, and that goes both professionally and personally, having a good home life, something that's solid that you can use as a foundation. So that's important. People. So I said, yeah. So first is vision, people. Third reason people fail at things, and I was tangible with it, is trying to do too much with too little, right? I mean, if you don't have the money to do something, you cannot do it. So taking that time to make sure that the resources are there. And I think as a leader, that really is your job. Your job is to guide people and get the resources for them. And so, I see a lot of great ideas, but not the time to figure out, okay, what steps can we take and what reasonable steps. And I'm probably actually guilty of this, being a visionary myself. If I had to tag my own personality type, I probably do that too, and have dreams bigger than the resources. So I think that's kind of a key, is building that, making sure you have it, aligning it. And again, that kind of circles back to having the people and the right people for that might have the resources you need in order to be successful. So there we go.
Excellent, Joe. Thank you. That's have a plan, build a team, find adequate resources. That's pretty much summarizes it pretty well.
Yeah.
So let's do a lightning round of a series of questions, and I want to know what motivates you internally.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you 3 answers. First, I mean, I get everything to God is my motivation for everything, just to do what I'm here for a reason, and just do what I need to do for that. I mean, and so, I mean, that is definitely the heart mover. But then I will also say what is the physical actually doing it. My motivation is twofold. Believe it or not, no matter how many trophies sit up here behind me and all that, I have major imposter syndrome. And I always feel like, and maybe it goes back to that first failure, that I always think, okay, I've got all this stuff going. So, was it all smoke and mirrors? So there's that sense of, really having to try to prove something. And then, and the kind of flip side of that is then being able to see other people succeed, and that's kind of a stage in life thing too. Having trophies, having awards, having a LinkedIn that you can scroll through is nice, but I'm looking forward to kind of seeing when, will my name appear on other people's LinkedIns as something that helped them get to their stage of career.
Yeah, I could relate to the imposter syndrome. I always think, why me? Why success follows me? And you always wonder what separates the men from the boys, the girls from the women. And it's, something that boiled down to me was the factor of what really is the competitive nature of who you are. And if you're competitive, you tend to rise to the top. If you're not competitive, you kind of settle for wherever you land.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting because, I think a lot of that, and I think going back to what I was saying about just knowing where your vision is, where you want to go, and understanding even who you are. And I think a lot of that, if, I get people all the time kind of ask for that, give me a piece of advice. And I think until you know yourself, both your strengths and your weaknesses, no advice really matters, right? I'm not going to go tell you, go, if you're in sales, it's not make 100 calls a day. Okay. Do you have to? Yeah, that's the work. But until you really know your strengths, if you know what type of salesperson you are, what motivates you, those types of things, then you're just spinning wheels. So I really think that that's really important to know that.
What people want to know, they look at successful people and they say, what are the success secrets that you can teach me? So what do you tell people if they ask you?
So top 3 success secrets. Don't do what I do. No, let's see. Oh boy. Top 3 success secrets. Again, I'm going to have to go back to, again, who my identity is. And that is, I would definitely say I am much more a visionary. It's both a blessing and a curse, because it can often lead to taking on more, going directions, pushing. But there is satisfaction in not being afraid to do what others didn't do. Like, we were all put here for a purpose, and what that is. So put it, circle it, write it down. People talk about having vision boards and things like that. Important, yeah. But just knowing, hey, what is it that I want to accomplish? And until you have that, and it kind of goes back to my other, the last one, the second question you'd ask. So I think being able to circle that, know it, and have it and believe it, and you'll know if it's right or not, and it has to fit with knowing who you are, what you want to get to. So that's one. Second, success secret. I was always told this early on, good or bad. And again, this is a probably don't do, but it's me. I'm a workaholic. I am. I was early on in my career. I had a mentor tell me that, remember, every minute you're not pushing to get to the top is a moment your competitor is. And not healthy at all, but there is a work, and I could put it toward, a good work ethic, right? Your success doesn't come out of nowhere. And, I come back to the old line, it was a phrase, it took 10 years to become an overnight success, right? People don't see everything that put into you, this all of a sudden you're in a limelight. And so I think that's really important, is understanding that, that it takes work, and it takes work that many people will never understand. It takes work that people will never appreciate. But it is what separates those at that top tier, I think. And then next third success secret that others can model from. It has to have an outlet, have some type of an outlet. I've got my boat out in the backyard. I have a rule: you book a meeting with me after 2:00 in the afternoon, I have to have a right to take it from my boat. I think, set up a nice, a nice office, a nice working area. I think about that when I was working on my PhD, is I had, my little chair, this comfort zone. You have to have your comfort zone that's also, both in where you work and how you work, but also, where you are when you're not working, whatever it is, and I don't want to say as much as even just a hobby, but just this thing that you have that lets you be in your, your quiet place, your zone, your chance to relax. Because as much as working hard, I know my first success secret was overwork and work hard, or my second one. And then my third is don't work. So it's that balance, right? Is having to know where you can let yourself recharge, whether it's volunteering or whatever it is. Find that thing that helps you recharge.
It's interesting. You talk about going out on your boat and having that personal zone. I just got back from the British Virgin Islands, got my captain's license for sailing on a monohull. So
Nice.
You got to have that place that you can escape to. I think it's a wise move.
Mm-hmm.
What about your motto for your company or your life?
Ooh, motto. My motto is, it's weird. It's a weird one, but my personal motto is: the answer is always yes, even when it's no, it's yes. It's random. I don't know that I can necessarily always explain it. But it's that feeling that everything is possible, even when you see that there's this block in front of you. And that could be career, that could be your personal life, challenges in your marriage. Everything is possible. You just have to be able to, understand that it's not a no, and, the door will open if you just keep working at it. And so that's always what's pushed me, both for good and bad. Sometimes it lets you not, you also have to know when maybe the answer was really no and you have to stop doing something, or maybe it really means it's a yes to something else. Right. But that's mine.
I like that, because one of the things that I've always used as one of my quotes that I believe in is, if it's been done, it's probably possible.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So tell us what your ideal client is now.
My ideal client. Oh, anybody who pays on time. I mean, no. Let's see. Ideal client. I'm really, and again, maybe this is a time of life type of thing. I am really, really a huge believer in relationship building. I think that both, and I'll say even my ideal client, and when I am a client of somebody else, right? I would say when there's a mutually beneficial for both parties, right? If I can help you, I can help solve a problem. I can, deliver a service, and I can do it in a way that, lets me sleep well at night. having that integrity behind it. That's a big thing for me. And that's what I look for in customers. That's what I look for, I think, as I build, kind of a group. Those are the traits. Even when I bring people into leadership for my organizations, I look for that idea of integrity, that idea of mutually beneficial success. And so I think I try to model that as a customer too myself.
Well, that's the win-win philosophy. I think that's a winner in all cases, of course. And so how do you find that ideal client, a person who shares the winning on both ways, as a receiver and a giver?
Yeah. It's one of the things that I had in my business early on. And it sounds bad, but I have always believed that the motto of the customer is always right is not right. There are, if you look at business models, and this is pretty obvious, if you study that, the 80-20 rule, 80% of your income and your all the work, all of that will come from 20% of the people, right? But yet we seem to fight and spend so much effort on the other, where, the other 80% where only 20% is coming from, right? And so that, and that's draining, and it's hard, and it really pulls you. And so I think that, just recognizing that it really takes, knowing where to put that focus. And it takes being able to say, sorry, this isn't the right business for you, or whatever. Someone comes and, I'm not the right fit. You're not the right fit. And I say that again, both as a customer and as a business owner, whatever. And I'm looking for clients, or going to be a client. I think fit is more important because it's just so much more mentally healthy.
So, Joe, do you have products and services that you offer that you're focused on in the future?
Yeah. I would say, the main thing is, as we're, building up Higher Ed AV Media, which is, I'm really excited about this year, is taking Higher Ed AV and creating a resource for others. I started the Higher Ed AV podcast 3-4 years ago now. I think we're on episode 190. Oh, wow, which is crazy. And to now have it turn and be an outlet for others in the vertical to create and provide content. And so I think that's really it. And, we're announcing, have the first ever Higher Ed AV Awards, which is going to celebrate the successes of those who, work day in and day out on their college campuses, providing for the students and that educational experience, and being able to see that go. And so that's really what I'm excited about. And I think it all comes down to, there are things that are not about me, but about building up others.
Well, that's a great segue into this 5-star client experience. People who focus on education, particularly, are really there to serve others. And how do you deliver, as an AV specialist, 5-star client experience for the people that associate with you?
Yeah. I'm a very, very, very big on user-centered design and user-centered services. I think that being able to cater, I think it's a lot of people would use the word white glove service. I like user-centered because it puts it back on the person. And so I think until you understand your customer, until you understand your client, until you understand who they are, how they think, and how they behave, then you're just spinning your wheels. But once you do know that, then you can shape your services. You can shape how you deliver your products to that. And it makes it a lot easier, because then you're selling something that people want. You're not forcing something down somebody. I think that as consumers, the world has changed. Consumerism we live in the world of a cell phone. We live in the world of instant gratification. And I think that until we really understand that people have needs that they want immediately, and that's okay. That's just the reality of the situation. Once we understand them and their behaviors, we can help do that and provide that. So I'm very big on taking roadblocks away from people. The more roadblocks there are, the more less likely they are to feel that they're getting good service, and two, likely going to just be frustrated and leave.
I like that. I like it a lot. And then you can convert your clients, those people with 5-star experiences, into your brand ambassadors. They go out to the world and they share the good news.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's huge. I'm a big believer, and especially because, I think a lot like the little trophies behind, a lot of that was for kind of pushing the limits type of stuff, doing things where it was the first of anything. And, you can't do that without having champions. So even I'd say, another word for brand ambassador is having a champion, having somebody who says, this is something I believe in, something that provides good value, but something that will just, I don't know. I mean, the right words with it, but I think you get the right idea. And I think that that's really the key. And now doing that means partnering early, right? When you have something you want to accomplish, it goes back to finding that team, and not just team of like the people around you, but even your customer team. Which ones are most likely to value from it? Find added value through what you're trying to do. And when you bring them in with you, now you have that opportunity to have them be that voice for you, because as we all know, I mean, customer, people read the reviews, people talk to other people trust their own friends more than they trust someone who's giving the service. They trust others who have received the service much more. So I think kind of understanding that even as you're doing a project or something or whatever you're trying to accomplish, you kind of have to be your own, Yelp review. You have to have those people who are going to be that first group for you.
Brand ambassadors are very important. And I'm always grateful when I get them. So, Joe, what are you grateful for today?
What am I
4th of January 2023.
I'm grateful for today. Well, I was going to say that it stopped raining in LA because we don't know how to do anything when it rains. But it did not stop. So I can't be grateful for that. No, I look at, so this is going to sound funny, but so my birthday is July 23rd. So 23 has always been my lucky number. And we're in 2023. So I've always had this idea that this is just, I'm bullish on 2023. I just feel like this is going to be a great year. I'm grateful that we're at 23. I think that a lot of people, always go, okay, new year, woo, we're going to, but there's something that says this is going to be a transformational year for me. And I'm grateful for that. I don't know what it looks like, but I think that 2020, 2021, 2022 was a rough road foundation for a lot of good things coming in 23. And I think that's true for society. I think we're going to finally merge out of the pandemic. We're going to start to see an economy turn. I think that 2023 at the end will be a nice transformational year where we'll be looking a lot more positive than negative.
Well, I think it is going to be transformational, and starting your day knowing that that's going to be the way it is. What do you typically do every day?
Oh, I am, my day starts early, first off. So I start at 6 a.m. every day, which again, because, since I mostly oversee, the classroom stuff, our classes start early. So I have to get on our services, make sure everything is working, see how the team is doing. And then also I'll, shoot off anything I have to do for HETMA or Hired AV. So typically, I mean, I'm up, I'm a quick shower, I'm gonna grab my coffee and I'm at my desk all within 20 minutes. Like that's it. And if I have to go up to campus, I live about an hour away from campus. I'm, that much earlier, hop in and I'm the first one in. I've always had that, I'm not always the last to leave, but I always think that first in always gives me that advantage. So, and especially because, when I run a national, really a global organization, being in Los Angeles, if I don't start early and start knocking off that list of stuff, I feel like I'm behind because other people on the board and stuff are on the East Coast. So they're already getting stuff done. So it's that, kind of imposter syndrome coming back up. I have to start early.
Yeah, of course. You got a lot on your plate. How do you plan to achieve your goal?
I'm going to take my own advice that I've been given. I really think that, I won't achieve any of my goals this year unless I invest in the people around it and they're going to make it happen. Um, I'm very, very good at, investing in myself and thinking that I can achieve everything, which is probably one of my weaknesses. I know we didn't ask any, what are the weaknesses questions, but mine is my weakness is really taking everything, not delegating things out, taking things on, because I'm the one with the vision. It's easy, it's kind of that easier to do things myself than to take the time. So I think that I know this year to make that major transition, so that 2024 is rocking. It's going to take stepping away from that, spending more time with others, building up the others, letting them be successful in their own way, and kind of going along with their ride rather than them coming along with my ride.
So that's a very ambitious but very laudatory goal. How do you feel if you didn't make that goal? What would it feel like if you didn't achieve it?
I'd be devastated. Yeah, I'm a big goals person, but I also go back to, you have to be flexible. I think that I've never put it that things won't happen, and I always look at, I have to go back to my faith that, we don't ever, the road is never easy to get to where we want to be, but you always seem to know where you're going to be, but it doesn't mean you know what it looks like. And you may not know what it looks like until you get there. And I think that's okay. So I've never thought that I won't achieve my goal, but it doesn't know. Again, I don't know what it'll look like when I'm there, but I'll know it when I'm there, and I'll know what it that it's happened. And I don't necessarily know the path it'll take to get there. So I've got to be able to be flexible and allow the hits to come along with the successes. So that's it.
If you are going to get these goals accomplished, you'll have challenges. What are you going to do if life throws a challenge at you, and how will you overcome
it? How to overcome challenges. I think that I think a lot of times it depends on what you mean by challenge, because if it means just, I think you have to be not emotionally invested when a challenge comes. It's really easy to be emotionally invested in your goals, and you should be, right? It feels good to accomplish a goal. It is an emotional experience, but when a challenge comes, you have to let that kind of, work out and go, okay, is it a challenge where I just need more work and resources? Or is it a challenge where this isn't the right path and I need to adjust and go a different way to do that? So it takes those hard choices. And so that's really how I do it. When I see things happening, and I probably, again, being a visionary, probably go too far down to the challenge and put more before I go, okay, brakes got to come on. Let's reevaluate. Let's redo. But when I make that look of, hey, this is going to have to be different, it's going to have to do this, I will do it on a dime. Like literally the next second will be, okay, here's the new way it's going to happen. So there we go.
Think about this, Joe. You're talking to your 20-year-old self, giving them advice about what to do to be successful. What's your quick answer to your 20-year-old self?
My 20-year-old self. Was Bitcoin was probably just being started then. I would get a heck of a lot of that. No. Let's see. Oh boy, advice for my 20-year-old self. I do get asked this question quite a bit. And it's interesting because I don't know that I would change anything. Would I take the wisdom that I have now and say, okay, do that because it's what I've learned over time? But I learned it because of the ups and downs. Mm-hmm. I learned it because of the challenges, right? I hate to say this, but pain is a good thing sometimes, that it helps you know who you are, it builds character, and it lets you know that you're working toward the things that you value. So I don't know that I would say anything other than, be courageous and do it, and which is kind of how I was too. So I don't know.
Just do it.
Yeah.
You have a living mentor now. Who are they, and what was the impact?
Who's my living mentor? Well, I mean, I guess, my early career mentors, are sadly past mostly, and or we've lost connection over time, which is kind of the sad thing. Um, Again, pre-Facebook days and stuff, where you didn't have a way to connect with people, and once someone changed their phone number, you lost them forever, right? So you know. So I would say right now, my living mentor, and it sounds crazy, but my mentors are the people who are looking up to me. I have been in this time of life, and I don't know if I can, I don't know if to the audience this is rare or not, or it's just crazy. But as I'm trying to bring in newer people into the industry, and I'm trying to kind of build that legacy and build who's going to take over my industry next after me, I'm finding I'm learning so much from them. Like, I'm learning more from people who are looking to me for solutions, um, than I've probably learned before. And I don't know. So I want to really just kind of say my mentor is it's maybe a cop out, but it's really that, again, going back to that team of people around me. And the impact is just, it's that gratification that that knowing that, hey, I can now help, whatever that next phase for them looks like.
That pretty much leads us right into the question of why is being impactful so important to you?
Yeah. Impact is a big word for me. It's one of those, sometimes when people, kind of what is your, he'll do what's your word for the year, the New Year's, what's going to be your, and I always pick impact. And it's like, it's just the one that comes right to me. And also, by the way, impact, you can use it instead of effect or affect. Okay. So if you ever don't know which one to use, effect or effect, impact works. So there you go. I always thought, like, if I'm going to do something, it needs to be worth it. And I don't know. And it doesn't necessarily, it can be worth it, personally, personal gratification. It can be worth it to somebody else. It can be worth it financially. It can be, whatever. Everything will have to have a different value proposition to it. But it has to be worth it in some way. And I think that if I do something and I spend a lot of effort and time and then realize that it was like, yeah, okay, that was yesterday's, no one cared. It's just like, that just hits me. I don't know. My self-esteem, my ego, it takes a hit. So I think that it really has this feeling that, that my personal satisfaction and then, my energy to continue forward happens when I see that there's value for others and or value for whatever the goal was, when I'm accomplishing it.
Impact is critical, and being a servant leader, you get to impact people so much better. So tell us what you would like to be remembered for, Joe.
Oh boy, I'm going through a lot of that. I'm not gonna, I'm one of those people, like, I mean, I don't know. I'm shallow, I guess. No, I want like I'm just one of those people. Like, if I leave my career and I'm not in the Hall of Fame, I'll feel like it was worthless. I know it sounds stupid, but it's like one of those, like, and I probably won't really, but it's one of those, like, those things where you try to, you think that you want to know you made a difference, and there's those tangible ways that you did, right? And so I really think that as things step out, and and I kind of move, if I move out of my career and others step in, I want to be remembered as the one who opened the door, right? And I think that there's value in that. I always think that going, one of my old pastors, Chuck Smith, those who may or may not know him, who founded the Calvary Chapel movement, used to say, when you're looking for a job, knock on 1,000 doors and pray God opens the right one. And I think of that in life too. Just knock, work, keep going. There's action behind it, but the door is going to be opened by somebody else. And whether, it's God in your life or being a mentor to somebody else, someone else, there's someone there in my industry who's knocking on a door right now. Can I be the one to open it for them? And I think that's what I'd like to be remembered for.
Those are extremely memorable statements and comments, and I think people can take those to heart. If they do, then they will ensure their success, and I know you're going to be successful. What I would like to do is to have you tell us how we can support you, your vision. How can we reach you? How can we keep in contact?
Yeah. I think the best support we can have is to connect to one another, right? To continue to build our network and build, I don't know how, I do believe, in that we're all here to build up one another. We're all here to support one another. And we all have a reason, even if we're in not industries or even related. I think that there is some value behind it. So you can find me at Josiah Way. So my legal name, Josiah Way, all one word, at Josiah Way, on every single social media platform. Just about. LinkedIn is a great place. LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can find me at Josiah Way. Connect with me and especially say, hey, I saw you here on the Influencers podcast, and that would be an awesome way to start our conversation. I think the best support we can have is building our community. So that's going to be it for me.
Excellent. I'm glad to find out the details so that people can check in. How would you explain your moments here on the show, and what would you say about your experience here on the Influencers podcast?
I'm going to say, here's my experience. You are so much more prepared than I am on my podcast. I loving the questions. This is fantastic. How you've got so I look at this as someone who does a podcast. I'm like, yeah, I just wing it. And you're like, I've got this. This was fantastic. Now I feel like a failure in my own. Just kidding. No, absolutely. This has just been a complete honor and blessing. I loved being able to kind of to do a retrospective on my career. And hopefully I really, really enjoyed being able to have share a little bit about my motivation beyond just the things that we do. So I appreciate it.
Thank you for that, Joe. And, you're the king of AV out on the West Coast, so you don't have to worry about being slack at all. I want to give you the final moments here. Say what you'd like, and tell our audience what's the most important thing that you'd like to.
Yeah. My final word. I think that as we all kind of came out of the pandemic, the one thing that the pandemic experience taught us is that there were a lot of hidden needs. And I know it's easy to say, mental health matters, and a lot of that is going around. But one thing that got exposed was how many people rely upon services that we provide. I think of this as our campus, like at USC, how many people relied upon our labs and our Wi-Fi, those tangible things. But really what it meant was that there's a lot of people who you think things are fine, but they're not. And it took a pandemic to expose that. So, my final word would be, let's not forget that. Let's make sure that we spend time building up one another. Don't assume just because somebody looks great on the outside that it's great on the inside. Everyone also is going through struggles at all times in their lives. Some are small struggles and trials, some are big. We never know. And so the only thing we can do is build up one another. That's where success comes from. And that's where we're going to all be better together. So I think that's really where I'm hoping that we can learn. One good thing that may have come out of the pandemic experience is that we all have needs that aren't always met, and that we can do that just by coming together as a community. So that is my final word. And now I'm going to sit here because I have a feeling that I lost him. And now that this is my show, there we go. There he is. Oh, nope. And we're back. And we're back. I just kept talking. I kept talking.
Joe, I don't know if you lost me, but I lost my mouse. I couldn't control the screen.
No, I had you there. I'm like, I'm going to keep talking. I'm like, I don't know if I lost you, but it was great. This is where you got to fill dead. It comes from the entertainment industry. You just fill dead air, right? Once you know I'm going, you just keep talking and you just keep talking. So there you go.
Yeah, we've had a great time having you on the Influencers Podcast, Dr. Joe Way. And USC has a superstar taking care of their AV, I can tell. And the people that you're influencing have nothing but a bright future. So thank you for being on the Influencers Podcast. I know every word you spoke was from the heart, and I know that the future is bright for you. And thank you for being on the show, and look forward to keeping in touch with you, sir.
Great. Thank you so much. Looking forward to chatting again. God bless.
Absolutely. Thanks to Joe Way. Joe has graced our screen, and we are so fortunate to have him be a part of the Influencers team. Now, stay tuned for more on the Influencers Podcast as we go forward today with more lively broadcast, and we will see you soon back online for the Influencers Podcast.